Hi everybody, welcome back to Future Fiber. This is a channel where I talk about all the crafty things that I do. It's mostly knitting, and today we have another knitting podcast episode. But I wanted to get this update video in before I had too many things to talk about. I don't love editing despite the runtime on my videos. I don't love editing and viewing super long videos like that. I don't think I said Happy New Year yet. It's February 1st. But Happy New Year. I think that's okay since it was Lunar New Year not too long ago, so we're still in the New Year phase. I have quite a number of finished objects, and then I went a little bit buck wild on the cast-ons, so it's a bit of a mess, this pile. Let's get into it. We have a lot to talk about. Let's start with finished objects. We have object number 1. This is the thin sweater by Wool and Beyond, a long-time resident of ours here. I finally finished her, got her done. I am very proud that I finally managed to finish this and didn't abandon it in the middle of the project because the yarn is kind of special. It's from Yarn Farm Kingston. It was just like their like local wool that they had in stock, and I used all, I think about 3 skeins, and I used every single last scrap of it. So that's 3 skeins into 1 shirt. I knitted the size, I want to say the 3rd size. I don't know if that's a medium or a small, whatever, but that's what I knitted. I don't know. I talked about this a little bit in the last video where I rank my knits from last year, and I ranked this guide not too high because I do have some qualms with it. At the end of the day, I believe my dissatisfactions with this particular knit have to do with my yarn choice gauge, which is related to yarn choice, and maybe I just picked the wrong size. And my particular, you know, preferences for fit and stuff. So I don't think it's the pattern's fault necessarily, because I think the pattern was well written. The style that I had, the arm side. Well, let's go through what I am not happy about with this, just to get that out of the way, and then I'll go a little bit more into the pattern. So my main thing with this, let's start with yarn choice. I don't think this color looks that great on me. This gray marl, I think it could look really chic and cute for some people. This kind of just looks, it looks a little like worn undershirt. I don't know. It doesn't give, sleek, classic, whatever I was intending. Uh, but I still like the fiber. I think it would have looked better if I just had used it in like maybe a cable or something that looks a little bit more rustic, not just this like shirt, you know? I think this pattern would benefit from a even solid color of yarn and not something like this kind of yarn. I do like the yarn, but unfortunately it is slightly too itchy to have right next to skin, which is a bit of a bummer. But on like just feeling it, it feels pretty soft, so I don't know what that's about. And I think the gauge is too tight. The gauge is too tight for what I want out of a t-shirt like this. Like the fabric is too dense. I think it still has pretty good drape and flow because wool, but I would like this to be a little bit more open, a little bit slightly more airy and plush. So this is too tight, I think. The upside is that the stitches look really good, but the downside is that this is not the gauge that I would have preferred for a garment like this. So if I did this again, I probably would have sized up on the needle which probably would solve a lot of issues, honestly, because, well, it would make the garment a little bit bigger, a smidge bigger, which would solve the arm issue. The arm is kind of tight on me. I think that is not, well, the pattern itself, the arm is meant to be more fitted, but it certainly doesn't help that. Okay, my gauge and my tension is pretty abysmal. I am okay with admitting that. And I don't really have super active plans to fix it. Sorry. It's just I don't care that much usually, so I just don't bother. But for this particular garment, I knit the sleeves in a shorty circular needle, and I should have sized up on the needle because you can even see that the body gauge is a little bit looser than the sleeve gauge. So especially in smaller circumferences, I already noticed that my sleeve gauge is usually like tighter than my body gauge. So I should have, taken that into consideration and sized up on the needle, but I didn't, so it's a little tight. Those are some of my major qualms. And then the next thing that I think is maybe not, I think this is just the design of the shirt, but then the arm side, I would have preferred it to be taken in a little bit more this way so that it has a closer fit around my arm, you know what I mean? It gives it a more three-dimensional shape, but the increase for the arm side is, I don't know if you can see that, but it's pretty straight down like this, from the saddle shoulders. It's saddle shoulder construction, so I think it's not going to be as perfect as if you were to do a bottom up seam. So I don't know how much that is the construction or the design or my preference, but this wouldn't have been a problem if I just sized up anyways. So I think those are some of the things that bother me. And then the body is a little shorter than I would have preferred, but the arms are good length. And that's because I sacrificed the body length for the sleeve length, and it's okay. I'm not that crazy about it, but it's not going to ruin my life. So that's to say, I am proud that I finished this because it is a fingering weight sweater shirt kind of thing. I don't love knitting on super small needles always. So I am happy that I did finish this, and I would probably knit another one. I just wouldn't do it with this kind of yarn again. So all learning lessons for me. And I am, oh, I just realized that the sleeves are totally different lengths. Do you see that? Well, that's another problem. Whatever. That's my thin sweater that I worked on for the majority of last year because I like looked back and I apparently cast it on in like March of last year. So it took me like 9 months-ish to really get it finished. Although it was in hibernation for a majority of the next finished object I have is a scarf that I knit on a whim, as I do. So this is based off of a pattern by Paulastrickt. This is the I Love Stripes bandana, but modified. So the I Love Stripes bandana has a solid color block section in the middle, because that's scarf bandana, whatever, is definitely inspired by the totem scarves, where they have like stripes and then a color block and then stripes. But this one I just decided to do even striping all the way through. Well, these are leftover sock yarns from when I was knitting all those socks on my circular sock knitting machine for Christmas last year. So this is Cascade Heritage Superwash. And the color is this neon yellow and then this blue. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it down below. But that's what I used. And the blue, I used every single last scrap of. Yellow, I have this much left. And you can even tell where I ran out of the blue. I was originally going to do the I-cord edge all with the blue, but then I ran out. So like halfway or quarter of the way through, I switched to this, to the yellow, so you can see that up here it's like divided. But I don't know, I was like, does it look weird? But I don't think it looks that strange. Maybe it looks almost intentional. So it's like yellow here, blue here. Somebody called it, I posted a work in progress of this on my Instagram, and somebody was like, it looks like Buzz Lightyear. But then I looked up Buzz Lightyear, and then Buzz Lightyear is actually purple and yellow and white. So, but it doesn't change the fact that this is a crazy color. So I just wanted something colorful, and I put these yarns together next to each other, and then I was like, they're kind of cute. So that's what I did. This was a pretty quick project, and then I was just working on it while I was in meetings and stuff. So lots of uses for that pattern. This is actually the second time making this pattern. I made it like 2 years ago in black and white, and then I lost the scarf. It's gone, which is really a bummer because I liked it. But I like the striping, and overall like how it looks. But you could probably achieve the same result with any free triangle bandana scarf pattern. So if you like this kind of color combo, I think it's more the colors are what's interesting about this than anything else. So that's that. Just a little project. So now as you see, it's not quite long enough to wrap around like twice and then like tie. So I usually just do this, just drape it over like this, or do a little tie like this. I am thinking of getting maybe like a scarf ring and then doing like that. Or when I'm cold, I do this outside, and then I have my jacket on. I have absolutely no shame going outside like this because I'm like, whatever. I'm cold. My comfort is more important than people staring at me like I'm insane. So that's the I Love Stripes modified bandana. And then we have to talk about the another winter accessory. I have a lot of accessories because we had a cold spell in New York and it's still cold, and then I decided that I needed all the everything. So let me put this on. This is like a hood scarf. Isn't there a name for that? Snood? Snood. It's a snood. And then I cranked this out on my Sentro knitting machine and then seamed it together and all that. So the construction is very ugly because it's made from all the scrap uh blown tube chainette kind of yarn that I had laying around the house. So it's a combination of different yarns, but yeah. Uh the construction is very bad. The hood is basically just a rectangle that I folded in half, and then I grafted the another long scarf tube to it in the middle like this. So the hood isn't shaped in any way. It's just like so it kind of has like this like gnome effect to it. But if you knit this by hand, or if you thought about this more on the central, you would probably decrease and then increase towards the middle. I just forgot. So this is what I get. It's not the best, but it's warm, so that's why I made it. And I didn't like, normally I just have like my Sophie shawl by Petite Knit, and then I wrap it around my head and then like around myself, around my neck, and then use that kind of as like a hood. I know the Sophie hood is out. I just don't want to knit another Sophie X item right now, so that's why I haven't done it. But this is kind of the same idea, you know? I just need my head and ears covered now. So that's this. And then this guy, this drawstring, is so that I could cinch up the face hole. What is this? The hood. Cause as you can see, it's a little floppy, so I put the drawstring in there, and then it'll keep me warmer is my idea. So the yarns used are this is Plymouth Yarns Ariado. This is Berroco Mochi, I believe. This is Knit Picks Wonder Fluff, Berroco Mochi, Knit Picks Wonder Fluff. Is there anything else in here? No, I think that's it. So all bulky kind of blown yarns go really well in the Sentro. So I am thinking about doing a Sentro review now that I've had some time to work with it, and then just talking about what yarns work well in it and all that stuff. So this was kind of a proof of concept on one of the project ideas that I wanted to like kind of include in that video too. So that's what happened with this guy. And yeah, the patterning is very like willy-nilly. I just did it wherever I felt like changing the color. So it's very it's not for everyone. I actually think this is kind of ugly, but it's more for function than form. So yeah. I might think about running maybe a crochet slip stitch along the top so that it can kind of bring it in a little bit more and doesn't stretch out like this. Who knows? That's for future Jenny to think about if it really bothers me. Like I didn't even weave in all the ends properly. I just don't care. Like it was a quick little thing. It possessed me for one evening and then I finished it. So that's this Snood project. Sentro Knitting Machine Snood project. We have another winter accessories. We have some gloves. I've seen people call these different things. I've seen tabi mittens, like the Japanese tabi shoes. I've seen people call them glittens, like glove mittens, because you have one finger. I've also seen it called trigger mittens. And then the pattern that I use for this is actually called Trigger Mittens. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Yeah, the pattern that I use to kind of work this up is Trigger Mittens by Frankie's Knitted Stuff. Free pattern on Ravelry. And I should have sized down or on the yarn or something. It's slightly big, but yeah, that's the basic pattern I used. I kind of YOLO'd the decrease. If you look at the pattern, it's not exactly like this, but you can probably figure it out. Like I started the decrease on this side, the outside of the hand before I started doing the decrease on the inside of the hand. So, you know, and then I just Kishnered the top here. So that's how this turned out. I know there's a couple varieties of this pattern out there. Like if you want a paid pattern, mm, I know Typical Bliss, Tiffany has one that you can pay for. If you want another bulkier free version, there is the Material Girls. They have a Tabi mitten pattern for free as well. So lots of options. But I was very interested in finding out that, I mean, it's like everything is cyclical, I suppose, but I found out that these were called trigger mittens because they knitted these for soldiers in like World War II or World War One, two, I guess. But like you have the trigger finger, you can still pew pew without taking off your gloves. So I guess that makes sense. They're also called smoking gloves. If you, I've seen them with where they don't have a the top of the finger over here so that you could, you know, smoke, hold a cigarette. So, you know, Margiela did not create these. He just revamped an idea that already existed. So I feel a little some type of way calling these toppy gloves instead of like trigger gloves, now that I know. But nonetheless, I think they're very cute. And people do a double take when they see them. So they're very nice. Oh, yarn. It's another stash busting project. I actually hand dyed some cashmere yarn that I got from Color Mart long ago. This yarn was particularly stanky. It smelled like dog poo poo. It smelled like spinning oils that were rotting in the back of a closet or oil pit for like 75,000 years. It smelled really terrible, actually. And I dyed it because I was like, I can't use this on its own. So I dyed it. The smell still didn't go away, and it still has that like slick feeling from like the spinning oil. So in a last ditch effort, I put this through the central knitting machine. So I like knitted like a very terrible little tube of this yarn. And then I put it in a garment bag and then I threw it in the washing machine with Dawn dish soap. And it actually took out a lot of the smell. So kudos for that. But I just used some Brit dye and that's the color that I got. This kind of like blue with like little fuchsia specks. Terrible dye job. I was just like playing around and so I had this cashmere and then I just had a bunch of like drops kidsilk laying around, so I used that to make this like that. I think it turned out pretty cute for a bunch of weird experiment yarn and scrap mohair and pattern that I found on the internet for free. All good things, all good things. And, you know, it's a record. I haven't lost a mitten yet. Knock on wood, everybody, because I have a tendency to lose my gloves. I do need to end up like tying these together. I should knit a version where they have like the string because I always lose one glove. I took these on a business trip and I almost lost one and I was about to lose my mind, but I didn't. So we have one more winter accessory for the finished object. This is the Waffle look, wait, Waffle Loop Neck Warmer by Otherloops. This has been also in progress for quite a bit. So, right off the bat, it's not as high as I wanted it to be because I ran out of yarn, but I thought about doing it with some contrast yarn and stuff like that, but I just don't think it would look great if it had contrast yarn up here. So I just decided to make it like a polo neck, mock neck almost. It doesn't come up quite as high, but it will still kind of, you know, keep me warm. And this is the final length. It hits me right above my belly button here. I think it looks very nice, very even, very polished. Although I don't know if this is like my look, you know. I feel like you have to be a cool Scandi girl to wear this. I just look like I have a bib on, low key, high key. So I mean, it doesn't go great with the pink, but I actually think the color doesn't look as terrible as I thought it would against like my skin tone. But yeah, I don't know. Definitely if I did this again, I would do the neck longer like in the original so that it like comes up to like right down my chin, you know, for warmth purposes. But this is what came out of that. I did end up putting elastic in here for to keep this kind of up, but I think the elastic's a little too tight. It's kind of choking me, so I might end up taking the elastic out. But yeah, so that's the front. You see the decreases like this. And then the back. It's really cute. I just don't think, I don't know if it's like me. And I don't have a particularly super long neck, so it's kind of like, I don't know. It's not the cool girl vibe that I was hoping would happen with this. It's just kind of like a child with a bib, but it's warm. And the yarn is very luxurious because it's alpaca that I bought from Alpaca Farm in Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. So it was a very expensive yarn. So yeah, it's like a special little project. You know what I mean? I like how it turned out. I will say the waffle stitch pattern, I really like how it looks. It just wasn't as easy, like, or mindless for me to knit. So I originally thought maybe I wanted to knit a waffle stitch pattern, all over waffle stitch pattern sweater or top. I may still do it, but maybe when I have more brain capacity. I am a little like low on the brain space. My RAM is a little low right now, so maybe I need to wait. So that's my winter accessory journey so far. Next. We have our, no, this is not the final. One of the last. Uh, I am now realizing that I didn't actually talk about the finished object that was the big one from last, big work in progress from last episode, which is my Christmas gift to my boyfriend. This is the Wider by Inyoung Kim from line 13, I think. And it's a kind of polo neck, wide polo neck sweater with like a shawl collar and then these big wide cables down the front. And it's a bottom up sweater that you have to seam. And yeah, I finished this like 2 days after Christmas. So I didn't make get this did not get to him Christmas Day, but doesn't matter. 2 days afterwards is that's pretty much Christmas. So I basically finished this in like under a month, which is pretty cool. IMO. I overall like how it turned out, and I think the pattern is nice. I just don't think it's like the best that it could have been. I made a lot of mistakes. I don't know how much of that was because I'm illiterate, or how much of that is the pattern writing, or how much of that is because I was illiterate because of time crunch. Who knows? But I have made a couple of big boy mistakes, which I will now enumerate through. We have mistake number one, the number of cables down the front. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. But if you look at the original sample photo, there's 3. So somewhere along the line, I misread the pattern. So for this first twist here, you have to go, how do I describe this? So the distance from the end of the rib to the first twist is not the same from the first twist to the second twist. Does that make sense? So, but I did it evenly. So the row count here to here is even, but it's actually supposed to be more spaced out, like up here. So that's why I ended up with 4 twists, because I was just like, I got to the third twist or second twist and I was like, wait, this looks wrong. But I wasn't gonna rip out what I did. So I just added another, I redistributed the rows and just added another cable. So now it just, yeah, there's just 4 twists. I don't think anyone's really gonna notice, but it's not the original. So like keep that in mind. So I had to do that, and then I got to the back and I was like, okay, I need to do that, I guess. I need to mirror the front. Not that, there was really any need for me to do that, but I just thought it would be nice if the back and front matched. And then I was knitting the back panel, and then I got to 1, 2, 3, the third, and then it was, according to the pattern, it was time for me to bind off for the shoulders. And I was kind of like, wait, the armhole for this looks mega short. So then I realized that I had made a mistake somewhere, and I just, I don't even remember because this was like a month ago at this point. But all I remember is I had this like moment of terrible epiphany where I had already finished doing the bind off and decrease and short row, whatever for the top of the shoulder part for the back panel. And then I was like, okay, the back panel is way shorter than the front panel. What happened? And it was because I just didn't knit another cable, basically another cable section in. I like didn't I just didn't knit that much in the fabric. And you know, it starts with the rib, so I was just kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do here? So I had this choice of, okay, do I want to rip back the shoulder work that I did, or do I want to basically cut the garment at a certain point? I chose, you know, right above where the, what is this called? Where the rib is. So I had this choice of, okay, do I want to undo the shoulder, or do I want to cut the garment, chop it in half, chop the rib off, and then knit another cable section, and then graft the rib on? So guess what I did? I opted for the latter because I like making my life harder and I don't like undoing my work. So I thought chopping it in half and grafting it together would be somehow easier and made more sense for me than just ripping out the top, which in retrospect was stupid. I should have done I should have ripped out the shoulder, but then I realized after that whole debacle that I am capable of chopping a sweater in half and grafting it back together. So, you know, that was a learning curve. But, you know, it's not perfect. Like, it doesn't look the best. You can tell that it was kind of grafted, but it's the back. And it's not my sweater, so I was like, whatever. So that was mistake number two. Those were pretty big mistakes, but it was not life-ending. And then I got to the sleeve. All right. So once you've grafted the front and, well, okay, once you've joined the front and the back panels, then you just pick up the stitches for the shoulder or sleeve and then just knit in the round for the sleeve. Because the pattern is garter, my my garter pickup around the shoulder is not great. It doesn't look very neat. Like, it just, because my pearls are not great, it just, the top rose out a little bit, and then the gauge is different on the sleeves. Here, this looks way more neat because I knit the sleeves inside out. So what I did was I picked up from the right side, and then at the end of the, I think I just knitted or purled once around, and then once I got to the underarm, I did a German short row and then just like reversed the directions, and then I just knit the sleeve because my knitting is way faster than purling. Unfortunate, but true. So I was able to just knit the sleeves in the round instead of purling. So that was a little hack that I did, and I think it turned out really well. So the sleeves look good. The rest of it is kind of like sus. I definitely should have used two different size needles so that my stitches and rows would be a little bit more even, but you know what? Nobody died. It's not the end of the world. And I think it looks pretty good. Yeah. I might steal it back from him. I don't know. This sweater fits definitely better on him than some other sweaters that I've knit for him in the past. I'll take that as a win. The color, I think, also looks good on him. I still have, oh, I didn't talk about the yarn. Yarn is Berroco Vintage Worsted. And there, I still have two skeins left of it. Depending on what to do with it, maybe he'll get a matching hat. And now we're heading into the elephant in the room. Maybe not elephant, the bunny in the room. So this is my last finished object for this episode, which is Miffy! If you know me, or if you, well, now you will know that I have a bit of a thing with Miffy. I'm a little bit obsessed with Miffy. I love the concept of bunnies, and Miffy is like the graphic design best version of the representation of a rabbit, IMO. So yeah, Miffy, my obsession. I grew up on Miffy, actually. Like, I had the original classic Miffy, whatever, Dick Berta stories on like VHS and the magic books. So I have a soft spot for Miffy. And then these Miffy crochet like dolls, Every time I go to a museum in the United States, like I think the MoMA has their version and then the Met always has their version. Every time I see those like art Miffys, I wanted to buy one. And then it's actually not that bad of a price. It's like $45. I mean, it's, you know, it's a crochet doll, handmade. It has to be handmade, so I understand the price, but I was just kind of like, I can make that. I just never did though. So I was really close to just buying one. But then I found a pattern on Etsy that I liked a lot for Miffy, so I bought that. The pattern is, so the pattern on Etsy is the Crochet Miffy pattern, and it's by Lumiki Co. I'll put it down below. But I liked the shape of the Miffy because I think the big thing about those crochet Miffys that you can get, the Just Dutch ones, is that they have like feet. They have shaped feet on the bottom like this. You can see that her feet are kind of like, she actually has like a bit of a ledge here, and it's not just straight up and down tubes. So that's what I was looking for, and this pattern had it. I'm sure if you are a crochet like expert, or honestly just somebody who crochets more than me, like this would not be hard to figure out on your own. I just am so bad at crochet, so I just needed something to handhold me, and so that's what I came up with here. I think the key with Miffy is just like getting the eye and the mouth placement correct, so I like try to get that a little bit better aligned on this guy. And she is made up of all scrap yarn. Even her innards are scrap yarn. And the face, I started out with Hobie Friends wool in white, and then I ran out of Hobie Friends wool, so that's why she's a little bit she has vitiligo, you know, she's a little multicolored. Let me take off her hat. Her ears are kind of messed up looking right now because they were in the hat, but yeah, you can see that she has like different colors because this is Patton's something. Yeah, so I like scrounged up all the white slash off-white yarns that I had in the house to make her. That's why she's a little tan. Her ears are a little tan. Um, and her body is a little tan too. She's special like that. And you can't tell because most of the time she has clothes on, like a hat and this dress on. The pattern does come with a this bonnet pattern and then the dress pattern, but they're crochet. But this is knit. So I just like freestyled the bonnet. That's why it's not like perfect, but I mean, Miffy's not moving. She's not gonna have this knocked off her head or anything. So it doesn't really matter, you know? It's just a doll clothing. So I was okay with it not being like a perfect fit or anything. And this yarn that I used for the bonnet is Feels Like Bliss by Lion Brand. I had some leftover from making Christmas hats for kids. And so I made a Miffy bonnet. I'm like kind of obsessed with her. She's very hefty too because her innards are filled with like, as I said, leftover wool. So she's very heavy. She's chonky. And the dress is also knit. I also freestyled. This is Hobie Friends wool. Um, so that's Miffy. I want to make more clothes for her. So if you have any suggestions of what I should make for her clothing, let me know. I think I want to make the her classic like she has a flower dress, you know. Maybe I'll just embroider some flowers on this one and then just make her her classic like red orange dress that she wears as a default. I also know like God, Miffy, I think it's like when she's on the airplane with her uncle, she's wearing like a cap that doesn't have the ears. So I might try making that too. I don't know, so many cute ideas that I could make. And then I also want to make her bear. What's the bear's name? Boris? Uh Maybe I want to make Boris as well or Melanie. I don't remember what any of the so I watched Miffy in Korean when I was little, so I don't know what and I didn't know any of the other characters' names until like I became an adult, and then I didn't even realize that Miffy's name isn't Miffy in Dutch. It's like Nitsche or something, like little bunny. So my Miffy knowledge has expanded exponentially in the past couple of years. But Crochet Miffy, I'm really glad. I'm so glad that I finally did this because it's so cute and very enriching in my life, I think. Everybody deserves a little Crochet Miffy, I think. You know? Get yourself one. You can stand over here. She's a little floppy. She needs a little bit more filling, but I don't want to like surgically open her up. So she may just remain like that for a little bit. Okay, so that's the finished objects. A lot has happened in the last month. Okay, let's get into, oh, what I'm wearing today. This is the Wanaka sweater by Andy Knits, and I knit this up with Haiku Kobashi DK in the colorway Bubblegum. It's very nice, very cozy, and the best part is I can throw it in the washing machine. So I really recommend this pattern and the combination of yarn. Where do I start? I have so much going on because I was being chaotic. I should have done this earlier. But lots of purple going on over here. Let's talk about this because it's on the top. This is the Minto sweater by knitonomy, and this is also a long term work in progress. I did start this like February, January maybe of last year, so it's like a year in the making. Oh my god. Okay, we have sleeve. We have full sweat, like the body is done. We're almost there. I just need to do the other sleeve and then we're done. I even did the collar. Guys, this is monumental. This is big. This is huge. And the sweater is huge. I'm knitting the lighter version of the sweater in the lowercase b size. And girl, let me just tell you, it's massive. I know that even in the sample photo, it's massive, but I am almost thinking that I should have sized down to the smaller size because she's huge. Like, look at the arm side. And this isn't even blocked. Like, once it's blocked, it's gonna get even bigger. And I'm kind of scared because once I like put the sleeve on, it's so long. And here's the thing, the sleeves and the body are shorter than what the pattern suggests by like several pattern repeats. I'm pretty sure I took out a whole like 1.5 repeat from the sleeve, and I think I took out like 2 repeats from the body. So I don't understand, like maybe my gauge is just like totally off. That has to be it. And you would think this girl would have, at that point measured. I didn't. It is what it is. It's really big. It looks good. I mean, it doesn't look bad yet. We'll see what it's like after blocking. But if it sucks after blocking, if it's so big, then I'll just throw it in the do a little go in the dryer, and I'm hoping that'll fix things, but it's big. I mean, it's meant to be super oversized, and you can tell from the pattern sample photo, so I don't know what I was thinking, but she's very big. Once it's all done and blocked and everything, I'll actually take measurements for this one and compare it against the original because I'm like, something's wrong here. It's probably my fault. It's not the pattern's fault, probably. It's my fault for not gauge swatching, but was I gonna do that? Absolutely not. So we're just making adjustments as we go. But oh my god, isn't that very exciting that we are almost at the end? And this sleeve is probably gonna take me 2 months, let's be honest. But honestly, if I am like locked in, this doesn't take that long. It's just that the cables are not as mindless as some of my other projects that I cast on, that I just like put this off. But if I sit on the couch, I have a 3-hour dissertation YouTube video going on about some obscure internet drama that I have no business in. I don't know any of those people are. If I'm locked in like that, and or if I have a knit night with friends and we're yapping, this might get done. So I might have to arrange one of those in order so that I can finally wear this before it gets warm. This is the sweater that I said was
I am so behind that now I'm ahead of the season.
I am right at the season, okay? And the season is seasoning. It's very cold in New York right now. So I would love this right now on my body. It's just not done. Okay, well, for those of you who have not followed me on this monster sweater journey, the yarn is Holst Garn Supersoft and in the colorway Princess. And we have Purl Soho Coorie, which is 100% kidsilk mohair. And it's in the colorway, girl, I don't know, purple. Down in the description as always. Now, at this point, I think I have too much yarn. So I'm kind of sick of this yarn right now. It literally makes me sick. It, mm, like sometimes I look at it and I like physically can't do it. So I am going to be laying off this yarn combo for a while. It's Coorie is not I see why it was discontinued because she's not fun to knit with. She splits a lot and that whole deal. And yeah, oh, makes me ill a little bit. So I'm just ready to be done with this. I'm so ready, please God. So that's the first work in progress. I will make a commitment to finish this guy for next podcast episode so that we can be done with this and you don't have to see this anymore and I don't have to see this anymore other than to just like put it on my body. So that's the commitment that I'm going to be making. Okay. And the next work in progress that we have that you've seen already is Zip Up Cardigan. Yeah, Zip Up Cardigan by Cookie the Knitter. I am modifying this so that it looks more like a Patagonia jacket, the Patagonia Retro X jackets. So I've knit this very oversized. I am knitting the large, which is the third largest size. So she's very big. The yarn that I'm using is 2 strands of Plotulopi held together. One is in like a light gray and one is in the darker gray. So it makes this like heather marl look. Once again, my rows are rowing out because I have terrible tension and YOLO, what it is what it is. The current progress is, as you can see, that I've knit the back panel, the back yoke, the 2 front yokes, and then I've joined them together. And now I am just knitting the entirety of the body length, and we'll knit the sleeves and all that. So I did this thing. It's invisible. It's invisible on camera, but if you look at the Patagonia Retro X jackets, they have a stitching line going horizontal from the yoke. So I like try to mimic that here by doing kind of a little welt stitch where you pick up couple stitches where you pick up a leg from couple stitches down and then like kind of knit the rows together, you know? So that's what I tried to do. Invisible. You can't even see it. Why did I do that? It's slightly noticeable in person. So I'm like hoping that if I like block this and everything, maybe it'll become a little bit noticeable. I try to think of ways to get that kind of like divot, you know, divot in the fabric so that it looks like there's a seam there. And I was like, well, if it's going to be a seam, why don't I literally create a seam by doing this stitching, welt stitching, whatever, together, you know? It's invisible! I think so. That was like my first option, and then the second, well, first option was doing a row of purl, but then I didn't like how it like protruded instead of went inwards in the fabric. So I was like, all right, let's not do a purl. If it was a garter stitch, like if this was actually like from the purl side, if the jacket was all from the purl side, then if I did a row of knit, then you would have seen that fabric kind of recess into the, you know, kind of make a divot, you know? But So I did the welt stitch. It's invisible as you can see. It's a little bit noticeable in person, but not really worth the effort. So I think what I should have done maybe is do um a row of like double knitting. You know how when you do the setup rows for Italian bind off, well, tubular bind off rather, before you do the Italian bind off, you do the knit and then slip and then you do the reverse. Maybe I should have done that. It might have looked a little bit more um it might have looked, it might have been visible. There is actually, okay, so the jacket has this top line stitching here, and then once you get to the bottom of the jacket, there's another row around like the bottom band. So maybe I will try doing that there. See if that looks any more visible. If not, I will just do the welt stitch to match the top. Or maybe I won't do anything at all, because who cares? I'm just kind of winging this as I go, but the pattern, the zipper cardigan pattern is very easy to follow. So if you just wanted to make the pattern as it is, I would recommend you do that. Um, don't do what I am doing, where I am trying to make up things as I go. But I am following the pattern mostly as it is. What I am not going to be doing is the bottom ribbing. I believe there's also waist shaping in the original pattern. Not going to be doing that either because I want it to be like a large tube. Um, and then the neck will be a little different because I will be doing contrast for the neck. And the bind off for the bottom hem edge, I think I will be doing I-cord, contrast I-cord. So that's the plan right now. I was looking on Instagram actually, and then I came across a version of a knitted jacket by a Korean designer that is pretty much exactly what I was looking for, as far as like Patagonia dupe knit thing goes. So I was a little bummed that I did not find that before I started this, but it'll look a little bit different. That one is very wide and the sleeves are very wide, and then it like decreases this way. So I don't think the fit is exactly for everyone's. This will be a little bit more standard fit. So we'll see. Whatever. I'll just keep going. And we'll see what happens. This one interesting thing though with this is that I'm still not done with the two plates of Plotulopi that I started with. I have knit like almost the entirety of the yoke and I still have this much of the plate left. So I have a lot of plates. I have a lot of these yarns, so I might have some left over to do something with afterwards, but I don't know what I would do because these yarns are so scratchy that I can't think of using this in any way other than a outerwear, so maybe it'll just have to be like contrast colors and another jacket project or something. So yeah, that's the current update on the zip-up cardigan by Cookie the Knitter, modified to Patagonia Retro X jacket. I think those are the two work in progress projects that you have seen already, and then we're going to talk about what you haven't seen already. Lots of purple happening in my life right now. I don't know. I'm having a moment. And the first work in progress that I do want to show you is this. This is the beginnings of the Rhodes sweater by Ozetta. This is knit completely on a whim because I was I think I was on Pinterest and I came across this sweater. You can buy it, I believe, still on W Concept. It's a Korean like fashion shopping website, whatever. It's this like kind of self-striping yarn that's like purple, green. I liked how it looked, so I was just kind of like thinking about that, and I realized that I had this yarn from, where did you go? Oh, here. I had this yarn from a while ago. This is Winter Glow from Hobie, and I believe the colorway number is 21. I don't know what that means in terms of like the color name, but I'll leave a link down below. I got sent one ball of this in PR to review. Like I think it's almost been like a year and change now, but and I just haven't had any use for this because I didn't want to hold a single. It is marketed as, or it was, I think they changed the listing information. It was listed as like worsted or maybe Aran. It's not worsted. It's not Aran. It's, I would call this DK if held alone. So I am holding this with this purple hazy yarn. This is from Color Mart. This is not mohair. This is lace weight alpaca and silk. So it has a silk core and has blown alpaca wrapped around it. And the colorway is called Glycine. I believe this is still available on Color Mart website, so I will link down below. Um, no affiliation, obviously. They don't pay me anything. So I put these together and it created this color, which I think is like pretty similar to what I saw. It's like this like hazy, purpley, neutrally moldy bread. It looks, the green parts especially, it looks very penicillin. It looks very moldy bread, but in a good way. No? It's giving food poisoning, but in a good way. I don't know. I think it looks nice. I think pastels, typically I gravitate towards pastels and purple. As you can see, I have a lot of purple going on. So, um, yeah, it's just a little bit different, you know? It's not standard. Uh, it's not just straight up purple. It's got a bit of a yellow hues in there too. So, just a, yeah, I don't know. Whim. Once again. I, and then I was like, okay, well, what pattern do I want to use with this? I know I already have the Simply Your sweater pattern that I worked with before, which is free. I'm sure that could have worked with this very well. But I decided to try the Road Sweater by Ozetta because I have knit a Ozetta pattern, couple of Ozetta patterns before. I remember them being generally like very well written. And I wanted to see if the fit of this was any different. And then mostly I like the Purl shoulder detail on it. It is a basic drop shoulder oversized pullover pattern though. So I mean if you have one that you like, I would just use that if you wanted to mimic this. I think what's special about this is more of like the color combination than the design of the sweater itself. Not that Ozetta doesn't make a mean pattern, but I really, yeah, that's my vibe. That's what's going on. So I actually had one ball of this and then I bought another ball to be safe because this is, I think this is about 700 yards and I was like, well, 700 yards not enough to knit a whole sweater. So I bought another ball, so I'm going to have some left over. And what am I going to do with it? I don't know. Maybe I'll make hot socks. That's the update on this one. And we have another purple. We have another purple work in progress because I was being insane. And I went to Michael's because I had a coupon, voucher, whatever. And I was just browsing the yarn section. And I've always wanted to try the Karen, what are they called? Lot, lot. I always want to say latke cakes, but they're, I think it's latte cakes. But yeah, the Karen, like big yarn. Yeah. Yeah. Originally, the plan was to find another yarn that I could run through the Sentro knitting machine. But then I saw this yarn and I thought it would be a good fit. And then decided I wanted to knit a raglan for some reason. So I am just freestyling a raglan pullover. And yeah, I'm definitely YOLOing everything. This is drafted or knit up terribly. So just I don't know why I didn't follow a pattern. I should have just used a pattern, but I was just like, no, I will just start and figure it out. And that bit me in the booty a little bit. So this short row in the back, it's terrible because like I should have made the short row like wider and more gradual, you know, shaping around the shoulder, but I just did it like mostly in the back. So now it has this like puckering thing that's happening. Yeah, it looks like shite, but whatever. That's in the back. Nobody's gonna notice. But it does, you know. slightly pull the front down. So that's all I really wanted, so that it's not choking me in the front. And I think the shoulder and the body division is a little bit sus. I really should have done a compound cardigan, raglan, but then I decided that I was just gonna increase evenly all throughout because I was lazy and I didn't want to do any math. And so yeah, I'm knitting this completely off of vibes, and the yarn is kind of carrying, honestly. Feels a little dumb for me to say all the yarn details, but it's like 58% acrylic and 42% nylon. It's really soft. So I think this will go actually really, really well in the Sentro knitting machine. So if you were looking for a yarn to do that, I would recommend. So the colorway is Lavender Shore. Um, it's carrying. I like it. Um, I wasn't when I first started knitting, I wasn't really sure about like the fuzzy, oh, it's almost like eyelash, eyelash yarn. So I thought maybe it'll look kind of sketchy, but from afar, I think it looks pretty good. So I'm excited. I am kind of speed knitting this because, well, first of all, I think the yarn feels really good to work with, and it knits up pretty fast because it's bulky weight. I am knitting this on 6.5 millimeter needles, and the fabric is very, but it doesn't look super, it's not super see-through or anything. So I like that. And yeah, it's working out really quickly. I like it. It's so soft. And I just wanted something that feels like a blanket, and this fits the bill quite perfectly. I do wish I made it a little bit more oversized, but I was not thinking and I was just vibing, and that this is what it's turning out to be. So it's going to be a surprise for both you and me what happens with this yarn. But I do think I need to buy another ball. I was really hoping that I could take care of this with one ball of yarn, but seems like that is not the case. But I do have another Michael's voucher, so it'll be a excuse for me to go to Mr. Michael's and pick up another ball of yarn and maybe, yeah, I don't know. But what I was thinking here is I really should have started the neck and then knit the sweater and then picked up to the to the to the collar. I didn't do that because I don't know. I didn't feel like it at the time. So I just knit the collar part, stockinette so that it rolls over, and then you can't tell anything because of this yarn, but I did do like 2 rows of 1 by 1 rib to kind of like try and cinch it in. And then there is actually a lateral stitch, like a braid happening around the collar part that you can't see. I just wanted to try it because I always liked how that looked on certain necklines. If it wasn't just like crazy yarn, it would be way more visible. So I might try doing that on another more sane, another tame yarn pattern. But that's that. And yeah, just raglan increase, split for the sleeves, working on the body, and then we'll do the sleeves. The sleeves, I think I want to do kind of like the petite knit cloud sweater, blouse, whatever, where it's also got the rolled over stockinette edges, but then you have the purl, wait, the rib to cinch it in before you do that. Or I might do I-cord. I don't know. It might be whatever. I'm just vibing. So yeah, it's one of those spontaneous projects. I've been knitting on this for like a day and a half, so it's like, yeah, that's pretty fast for me. So that's what I've been working on. I think that's pretty much everything. I wanted to do acquisitions in this episode too, but it's already so long. And nobody needs more stuff. Nobody needs to see more things that I bought. I didn't buy that much anyways, but I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about them next episode, but I'll just leave them out. I will mention one thing because I do have a question. And I am expanding my fiber production workflow, and I did buy a drop spindle. I like the checkerboard pattern. I got this from the Woolery, and I'm excited to start doing something with it, to start spinning, but I haven't gotten any of my fibers in yet. I ordered them from different places and all of them were on vacation, so it is what it is. So I'm waiting. But I used the Plotulopi to like spin some for fun. How do you guys store this? Where do you guys put this? Because it's such an odd shape. Do you just like stick it in a ball, like a basket somewhere? I know it comes with this bag, but I'm like, what do I do with it? Where do I put the bag? How do you store this? It's such an odd shape. So if you have suggestions for how I can store this in a way that's like not just sitting somewhere, let me know. And yeah, we'll we'll see how this goes. I mostly wanted to spin, not because I thought I would be great at spinning or if I want to make more yarn or whatever, but it's because I have a lot of scrap yarn and I felt bad about throwing the scrap yarns out, especially if they're natural fibers. So I wanted to use them as like speckle and like basically make tweed yarn out of it. So like I just wanted to try and use up as much of the yarn that I have as possible without like throwing anything out. That's why I got this. So I'm interested in that more than anything else. But obviously I'll need to learn how to just like spin regularly before I do anything crazy. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. I also need to buy some carders. I know that the dog hairbrushes, people sometimes use that, but maybe I'll just buy an actual set of carders. I don't know. This hobby, man, it's just like eventually I will be owning sheep and alpaca or something. I hope not, because I don't like mud. That's the update for this time around. I really should have done this earlier because I've been talking for like an hour and a half and now my throat hurts. And I wouldn't have had to yap this much if I just did this earlier. But thanks for watching. Um, Hope you guys are having a good start to the year, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. And me and Miffy will see you later. Goodbye.